Some people maintain that stress is good for us as it keeps us focused and productive. Others advise that we avoid stress all that cost if we want to be happy. As we proceed through this book, I shall endeavour to address all the differing views on stress. I shall define stress in specific way and in specific situation and help you to understand more about how and why stress affects you physically, emotionally and mentally. But most importantly of all, I shall present you with the strategies for releasing yourself from its grasp and for controlling its effect on our real life. However we define stress, I believe there is a need to take a new look at a phenomenon, for there can be no doubt that we all feel increasingly stressed by much of your modern world. In my view, it is not going to get any better as we advance into the next few decades. In fact, I'm convinced that the levels of stress will increase for quite a while, or at last the triggers to the stress will increase. It is up to each of us to ensure that we do not sum, and it is what this book is about. We are going to need new strategies with which to redesign our lives, perhaps to rethink many of our basic assumptions and to develop a new game plan, new philosophy, even for new era. Many people are already looking for alternatives and new perspectives in complementary medicines, in the re-advisory of ancient wisdoms in retreat or taking holiday off the pattern track, as well as rethinking their career path. There is almost a new consequences begins to unfold as the century progresses. The stress of changes. Part of the stress being experienced at any moment in the history come from the tension generated by chance, by the old order of things have to give way to new ideas and practices. This is of course happens globally as well as in the small arena of our own personal lives. Stress is the adaptation or adjustment that is demand on of our mind and body to any circumstances changing, whether the changes is physically, philosophically or emotionally. Change is demanding and tiring because we have to give a higher level of attention to new things, and this greater attention requires more energy that we use when just coasting along habitually. Of course, changes can be stimulating and interesting, but too much changes in too short a space of time can be overwhelming and exhausting. The more extreme the adjustment required, the more likely we are to experience stress and possibly disaster. Part of the reasons that stress and anxiety are impacting more profoundly and widely today than ever before is the increasing speed with which new innovations are overtaking the old and the huge demand this makes on all of us to adapt rapidly and frequently. On top of this demand to adjust our overthinking, our practices and some things our priorities, there is now an additional demand for everything to happen faster than ever and before, each moment to be filled more completely. We expect to cram more and more achievements into each day. This puts enormous pressure on us and on our coping ability. Our mental, emotional and physical resources are being stressed and eventually. Even though we may not always realize it from day to day, we may know it is gradually abstract way that this is the case. But in my views, we don't really give enough serious thoughts to just happen what is happening to us at the point in the review in the 21st century. It often means that we don't take enough countermeasures, and I shall be addressing the important aspects of counterbalancing our stressors throughout the book. Stress tends counterbounding to creep up on us in an accumulative manner. We adjust without a quite realizing that a strain it is to be conformated with relentless demand to absorb and react to high-speed news and innovations all around the clock, not to mention keeping up to the date with all our friends, news and activities on social networking sites. Whether we realize it or not, this pressure to keep up to date is impacting profoundly on most of us for most of the time. I see the result constantly in my therapeutic practice. People suffering from exhaustion, burnout, panic attack, anxiety, hypertension, and a whole host of other symptoms. I think many people would agree that there is a general unease about the fact that we don't seem to feel as good things as we think we should. A lot of advertising slogans empathize peace of mind as one of the benefits, yet peace of mind seems somewhat exclusive in our current world. In fact, the level of anxiety, depression, and mental ill health are rising even among children. Today's lifestyle is not exactly producing the freedom and happiness that we all are implementally promised by the new technologies and so-called labor-saving devices. People who come out to consult with me tell me that they feel overloaded and overstressed and somehow unfulfilled in important aspects of themselves. There is also a widespread feelings among many that they can't control their agendas sufficiently in order to create more time for what they really want to do. These are the issues we shall be addressing as we proceed through the book. I shall analyze why we feel as we do, then offers the ideas and strategies for encountering lots of pressures, as well as suggesting way to take more control of your agendas to free up time for yourself and to bring about more positive changes. Daydreaming time is important. A theme I hear constantly is that people have little energy and suffer from tired all the times. Syndrome, always feeling under the pressure to keep on doing things. List not understanding quite how or why they have found themselves in this scenario. They say they feel driven by the multitude of tasks always need their attention and panically at not finding the time to step back. Take another view and work out a way of changing the situations. My clients tell me there never seems to be enough rooms in their schedules to take sometimes out from themselves, to relax or daydream, to restore their energy. This is important because so-called daydreaming or pottering about time is essential for rebalancing ourselves and connecting into the right hemisphere of the brain, from which arises much of our certainty and best ideas. Also, total relaxation of a body and a mind is one of the most effective counterbalances to overload and excessive demands. Deep relaxation restores depleted energy at all levels, mentally, physically, and emotionally. It is a technique we teach to all my clients as an indispensable tool in their stress and control strategy, and I will teach you in the coming chapters. Limited adaptation energy. We tend to adjust to new circumstances without realizing what is happening because we are very adaptable beings. But we need to take stocks from the time to time, to step back and to look at objectively at our stations and reassess if we are living in a way that is right for us. We can cope with extra demands and high pressure for a while, but not as a constant way of life. If you are continually being loaded up with more and more to adapt and adjust to, without sufficient resting time in between, there comes a point when you will just collapse, possibly experience some health problems or feelings of total burnout from unrealizing demands with no energy to cope with anything. Change of any kind, even pleasant change, is stressful because human beings actually have a limited amount of adaptive capacity. It is different for us, but if we are pushed beyond our individual limit, we find it hard to cope. It is often difficult to admit to yourself that we have a limit, but the truth is that we do. We deny this fact at our peril. It may be a long time before it catches up with us, but eventually it will. The people most of the risk from the stress-related symptoms are those who never relax, never really switch off, those who are not willing to admit to themselves that they feel tired or that for the time being they have reached their limits. It is not a question of being an underachiever. It is a question of a balance, and in an experience, the most successful people have almost always developed ways of switching off. I shall address this more fully in the coming chapters, but for the moment, let us stay with the subjects of changes. It is interesting to note that the demanding life changes often cluster at the same time. Events like moving house, changing jobs, or having a baby may coincide with divorce or dependency, or the death of an aged parents may occur at the same time as our own retirement or as children's leave home. Stressful life eventually imposes themselves on all other aspects of change in the world around us. And because we do not have unlimited adaptive resources, it is imperative that we take extra care of ourselves when we are dealing with a greater than usual numbers of life changes. This, in fact, is well documented in the medical literatures, but it is not sufficient well experienced to the lay public, even by their doctors. Below is a list of the most demanding life events you are experienced with a numerical value against each other. It is based on research carried out in 1970s by the Dr. Thomas Holmes and Richard Rahe of the University of Washington School of Medicines, and it's largely undisputed by their subsequent studies. According to their friends, a score of 150 based on the life events which has happened to you in the previous 12-month periods make your changes of developing an illness or health changes roughly 50 to 50. If you score 300 points or over within the year, your changes of experiencing the health change rise to almost 90% as you have reached a dangerous zone as far as your body's adaptive capacity is concerned. This means that your body resilience to combat diseases or maintain it homeostatic will severely be taxed. For good health and emotional happiness, try not to be rise above the score of 150 points in any 1 year. Obviously, it would be best to keep most years well below even that figures. If you have a high score in the life changes event 1 year, give yourself a break and keep things such the same as usual in the following 12 months, or at least attempt to avoid the high score changes. If that proves impossible, then make sure of you to have more rest than unusual during the high score times to encounter the strains, and don't take on any unnecessary changes at the time. It is also important to ensure you are eating a good diet with supplies vital replements to your body resources. In this way, you can help to strengthen the body defenses against illness and breakdown of health. Life event tables. Death of a spouse is 100, divorce is 73, marital separation is 65, jail term 63, death of a close family member 63, personal injury or health illness is 53, marriage 50, fired from work 47, marital reconciliation is 45, retirement 45, changes in the family health 44, pregnancy 40, sexual difficulties 40, addiction to the family 39, business readjustment 39, changes in financial status 39, death of a close friend 37, change to different types of work 36, change in number of martial argument 35, mortgage loans or loan over a lakhs 31, foreclosure of mortgage or loan 30, changes in work responsibility 29, son or daughter leaving home 29, trouble with in-laws 29, outstanding personal achievements 28, spouse beings or stop work 26, starting or finishing school 26, changes in life condition 25, revision of personal habit 24, trouble with boss 23, change in work hours or condition 20, change in residence 20, change in school 20, change in recreational habits 19, change in church activities 19, change in social activities 18, mortgage or loan under 1 lakh 17, changes in sleeping habit 15, changes in number family gathering 15, changes in eating habit 15, vacation 13, Christmas season 12, minor violation of the law 11. Our conjunctive interpretation of these life events also play a significant part. If someone like a divorce is more of a relief than an agony, it will not take such a toll of your health. Although the actual changes involved will still have an impact on your addictive energy. Some even will be experienced more dramatically by certain individuals than others, and will therefore be more diplomatic of body's resources, a factor not taken sufficiently in account in the earlier research. Your attitude can help. Each life event does not affect everyone in actually the same way, and it has been discovered in more recent research that a person's attitude can protect their body. I don't mean that you should artificially force yourself to experience joy in the face of a sad events, but where it is possible and appropriate, alternating one's attitude can do much to realize stress, or at least to mitigate against its more extreme effects. However serious your life circumstances or however overstressed you may feel, try to take a regular time out for laughter. It is a real tonic. Laughing expeeds your birth and is followed by deep inhalation which relaxes you. It distinctively elevates your mood, which has been found to raise the pain threshold as well as increasing the productions of immunoglobulin, which help defines you against the illness and infection. Laughter clubs were started by a doctor in Mumbai in India in 1995, where people gathered in the early morning for the sole purpose of laughing. Dr. Madan recognized that the physical and emotional health benefit that derives from the regular laughter, and he developed a practice that combined yoga, breathing, symbolizing exercises and laughing. There are now 8,000 laughing yoga clubs in 65 countries worldwide. Dr. Madan's book Laugh for No Reason is available in online. Find out more at www.laughteryoga.organization. I shall be saying much more regarding approaches in many of the following chapters. Dr. Heinz Silas was one of the prisoner researchers in the stress syndrome and its effect in 1930s and 1940s. And this is explained fully in this book, The Stress of Life. Dr. Seal made an enormous contribution throughout his dedicated work, but I fear that his findings are not as well as understanding today as they might be. I shall attempt to translate the medical research into a lay terms as well as into practical, useful, everyday application for realizing your stress and feeling more in control of your life. In relation to your limited adaptive capacity, Dr. Seals wrote, it is as though at birth, even individual inherited a certain amount of adaptation energy, the magnitude of which is determined by his genetic background, his parents. He can draw upon his capital thriftivity for a long but monotonously uneventful existence or he can spend his lavishly in the course of a stressful, intensive, but perhaps more colorful and exciting life. In any case, there is just so much of it, and he must budget accordingly. Don't blank trap your energy bank. If you don't budget but overspend your adaptation energy by having to adapt or adjust too many changes into too short a space of time, you become bankrupt in terms of energy, with nothing left over an emergency or for unexpected changes. So pay vigilant attention to your energy bank and try not to run into permanent overdraft. Try to keep an ongoing energy saving account so that you always have some reserves. In my opinion, a great numbers of people nowadays are finding it a struggle to function well because they are in a state of permanent exertion due to the high level of demands we all face each day. Therefore, it is not surprising that we feel strained and not terribly happy much of the time. You feel the most stress and lack of control when they energy too freely and neglect to pay into their energy bank regularly. We need to build our energy levels and other resources constantly, and we shall be looking at how to do this in many different ways throughout this book. Changes is also stressful because it can feel threatening. In threatening what we know and all that is familiar and predictable. So, however inevitable changes may be, it takes its toll today more than ever before. Mitigating the effects of changes. Given that a change is not going to go away or slow down, and that in all probabilities it will increase and intensity. It is going to become ever more necessary that we take this phenomenon seriously and learn how to manage ourselves in relation to change. So the first strategy in controlling stress must be to access how much changes you are currently coping with or have been coping with in the recent past and whether or not you feel stressed by it. Managing changes, mitigating the effect of the changes, that is to minimize them as much as possible and or compensate yourself during the changes and afterwards. Some practical guidelines are outlined before. Staggers different changes. If you are faced with a number of inevitable or unavoidable changes, try at least to stagger them with resting periods in between each change so that you do not overload yourself with too much to adapt to it in a short period of time. Break up each changes. Every change can be broken into a number of stages, interspreaded with time to rest and replenish yourself. If you cannot spread them out but have to deal with many changes at once, then plan some recovery times at the end of it all. Time to do nothing every much while you adjust and assimilate to the new situation or circumstances. Time to recover your resources. Take stocks. Most important, do not just run from the adjustment to adjustment without taking stock of what is happening to you, because it will exhaust your capability than usual. For you will be running and on empty with no reserves. Maintain equilibrium elsewhere. If you know a large number of changes are coming up in one area of your life, make sure that you keep things much the same as usual in other areas. For example, supposing you have received a promotion at the work, have just moved to new offices, acquired a new boss and a new work colleagues, and are possibly to learn a completely new computer systems or adjust to new work procedures, then it would be inadvisable to move house, a very stressful event. Attempt to learn a foreign language and start flying lessons at the same time. In other words, don't take any extra unnecessary demanding activities. Take your time. For example, you have recently been divorced, been forced to move out from your home, and perhaps had a reduction in income, then that is quite enough for anyone to cope with at any one of the time. Do not take on any more changes until you have had time to become accommodated to the new circumstances. According to the life events table, the most stressful changes in anyone's life is the loss of an important relationship. Such changes need a significant amount of time for adjustment to be made and should not be hurried and denied. You can probably understand how this kind of changes in life circumstances depletes a person's resources both emotionally and mentally, and how those stresses take their toll on the physical body. A person in this situation need to be protected against any more stresses or changes and must give themselves permission not to take on too much until they feel stronger. All losses have a major impact on our normal coping abilities, and this applies as equally to the loss of any part of the body, perhaps through the surgery or accident, or the loss of an usual use in certain limbs, as with the paralysis or disabilities like respiratory strain injury or severe arthritis. All these things changes your relationship with the world around you. Time is the greatest healer here, and I would always advise just take your own time to adjust. Don't push yourself or allow yourself to be pushed by the others. Coping with the key stressful life events unto baby. A mammoth changes of a lifestyle is experienced when a new baby is born, and often couples are not prepared for all this toll takes us on their energized and adaptive capacities. Many try to play down the changes to their way of life, often because they don't feel ready to change anything. But in the first few months at least, it is the best to give yourself plenty of floating time with a minimum of demands in other areas. I think a great many new mothers become depressed due to exhaustion more than any other factor. They have high expectation of themselves, often expecting to be able to do everything they did before in addition to look after their baby. But a baby needs are many and unrelated at first and use up huge amounts of their mother's energy. Time is needed for adjustment to the new situation, not forgetting the internal changes and adjustment taking place in the new mother's hormone level. Mother must look after themselves as well as their newborns. Starting school. Children starting school for the first time face enormous adjustment which will be taxing to their adaptation energy and need to be taken into consideration when planning the rest of their timetable. The change of leaving the safe and relatively peaceful environment of home to be conferred with the scores of other children's new surroundings, new adults to relate, on top of the strains of starting structural learning programs, is all incredibly demanding and often not sufficiently understood by the parents. It is a little wonder that these children can be crabby and bad-tempered when they come out of the school. I always found one of the best way to counteract the irritability was to make sure that I met my daughter with something to eat so as to raise her blood sugar level, a sticky bun or a sandwich or even some biscuits, which would supply instant sugar and cheer her up until she got home and could eat some better quality food. We are irritable when our blood sugar is low. Try to be patient with children in starting schools if they are difficult. They are just overloaded and need to get home to protected, safe and quiet space where they can pause for a while. Equally, make sure that your child is not overloaded with extra changes outside schools, like ballet or music lessons, until they have adjusted. If possible, avoid dragging them around the supermarkets after school, for a kind of environment provides too much sensory stimulation for a tired child, usually causing them to go in a hyperactive state, which varies everybody's nerves and often end in arguments and tears. Protect and cost themselves a little more than usual and make sure they got insufficient sleep. Make bedtime calm with stories, songs or nursery rhymes after a warm and a soothing bath. Children often contracts frequent minor illness when they start school, which is due in a part of mixing with a large number of other children, but it's also due to increased demand on their adaptive energy, leaving less energy available for the body to combat invalidating organization. This phenomenon is also seen in adults undergoing demanding or stressful changes. Teachers starting in new school years usually go through a phase of increased subsequently to the illness, and the same has also been noticed among medical students during the first month of their training as well as others in new and demanding situation. Leaving for the universities. Other life change frequently experienced but often underestimating is leaving schools and going to the universities. Suddenly, as an undergraduate, you have to cope with completely organized your timetable alone. Shopping for a food and feeding yourself and equally on a same budget, making sure you have a clean clothes and clean surroundings. You are responsible for lots of tasks that we probably take care of by someone else before. Usually your mother on the top of the extra intellectual workload, as this is not to mention the adjustment to new tortures and new housemates or fellow students in the halls. There is a huge changes in the circumstances, usually not sufficient, acknowledged or prepared for. No wonder many undergraduates become depressed. Actually, they are probably not truly clinically depressed. They are most likely to be bulking under too much demands for changing all at once. It is exhausting their resources. The effect of changes. A client of mine has recently split up with her long-term boyfriend, and because she was living with him in his apartment, she has to move out. She is currently dividing her time between staying with two different friends who have offered to help, but who live on an opposite side of London. So she is spread between two homes with some of their things in each place. This is all very being taxed to her emotional energy. She had lost her emotional partner and her home all at the same time and has no secure base from which to operate. She has no territory to call her own, and it has affected her performances at work. She had a number of negative confirmations with her bosses for forgetting important tasks, and she has begun to talk about the changes her job. I am trying to discuss her from this, for she is deceptible herself even further. She does not recognize the stress she is under and simply wants to get away from it. She does not recognize the stress she is under and simply wants to get away from what she preserves as hassle. But another major changes is an important area of her life will weaken her at this point. It will not improve matters as much as possible. She needs to keep her life in same as usual while she adjusts to her new status. In a few months of a time, when she has found a permanent home, she could start the search for a new job, but right now it would just add to the stress and strain to take on more changes. I can only hope she will listen to my advice, but this is a good illustration of how intense of life events can affect our capacity to cope up in the other areas. We do adjust and adapt to changes given time. The new circumstances become the norms, and we are accumulative or inhabited as the physiologists like to say. In other words, the new has metamorphosed into habitual, demanding less tension and therefore require less energy. Some changes we chose and some are forced upon us. Try to assess how much changes you are dealing with when you are feeling partially stressed and strained. And you may be surprised to reveal how much changes is or has been happening in your life. Also, try to aware of the changes that members of your family may be coping with or in other close relationship, especially if you experience difficulties with them. If people are more short-tempered than usual or things blow up for apparent reasons, this could all be due of exhaust revise of adaptation. Keep reminding yourself that too much changes in too short space of time will be severely debilitating and may diminish your abilities in all areas of your life. If most of the things you face each day feel more and more of the strain, even things that previously seemed relatively easy to cope with, this may indicate that you are handling too much changes and exerting your adaptation energy. So take mitigating or compensating actions as suggested above and throughout this book in order to evaluate any more demands on your overstressed resource. You may even have to tell a white lie or two. This is a simple and good life management and good sense. Hold on to what is valuable for you. It is not only the volume and the speed of the changes that has stressed us. Many people feel uneasy about the kind of changes they are happening and a lack of control over them. This causes anxiety and emotional stress. For a while, a large number of today's changes may be exciting, interesting and good. A worrying level of what we are implementing is not good for us at all. Thus, we are not only coping with rapid changes, which can be overwhelming to your adaptation energy, but we also have to cope with the anxiety produced by all the wrong things that are happening. The changes we preserve as bad for us and for the planet. This is another load to carry. I'm talking about this like cloning, polluted air, toxic waterways, gridlocks, motorways, nuclear power plants and transportations of nuclear waste, the deviations of the rainforests, climate changes and much. I shall come to the later. Is there anything we can do? Yes, I think there is. I think it will have influence eventually, firstly for our personal lives and gradually for the whole planet. I believe that the next most important step in our strategy to minimize and compensate for the strains and intensively our changing world is to ensure that we are consequently retain and regularly focus on all the wisdoms that have been accumulated through the ages. Those wise diverties that have been passed down through the generation, either verbally or by written words, that instructs us in the best way of living and behaving, and which are in the danger of being switched off the current agenda as we become increasingly scheduled by the novelties of our technology ages. One very relevant saying I have heard a while ago is, where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge, and where is the knowledge we have lost in this information? This is tremendously important in my view, both at a personal level and for humanity as a whole, that we don't lose sight of those eternal truths that do not change us with changing fashions or new ideas, that do not go out of a day, and which can give us a sense of stability, certainly and continuously in the face of the changes. These profound truths and wisdom have supported, sustained, and inspired humankind through many changing scenarios. We must not forget what we know. If we lose our connections to the wisdom of ages passed unto the fundamental eternal truth, we shall have nothing to anchor us on, sustain us in the face of life's changes, as we will go further and further astray. In many ways, you could say that all the answers we need are already with us. We just have to remind ourselves, search them out, and apply them appropriately. This is one of the themes that I shall be returning to again and again throughout the book. I shall search out of the ancient wisdom teaching about the different aspects of a life and present them to you with the suggestions about how to apply them in current living in order to control your stress level. But I would also encourage you to work on doing the same things to discover or to remember the wisdom of the truth that makes sense to you and give regular times to reflect on them. They may come from a spiritual or religious belief system, a philosophical view, or the wise traditional that have been passed down through the ages in each cultures. They are the cornerstones of civilized life and can act as touchstones when we feel overwhelmed or bewildered by all the demands of today's changes world that clamors for our attention. We need those guiding principles for our total well-being, and if we return to these messages of truth and wisdoms regularly throughout our day, we will know how to respond, what is the best practice of the right basic for our approach to almost everything. They provide a calming point of serenity within the rapidly shifting superficial values of our contemporary culture. Allow yourself moments of stillness. Don't just rush throughout your day, but be still from time to time and call to the mind fundamental truth you know. Give yourself a few minutes, 3 or 4 times a day, to stop whatever you are doing and to step back mentally to focus on something that has deeper meaning for you, that your daily concerns, something that resonates for you as an eternal truth. The best of a truth is that it can be applied at any time, in any situation, and so we can transit opinions or prejudge and can speak to each and every human being regardless or race of creed. A truth always resonates as being true, so it provides an extra definition. It expands the viewpoints in any situation and it endures across the year. A small exercise to determine your core value. What is your bottom line? What are your core value? Which are your own truth and guiding principles? Write a list of all the most important truths that you use to support you in living your life, or those that you would like to implement more often. It may take you a while to bring these things up with your consciousness, but if you give it in the time and the serious consideration it deserves, you will find this mental exercise enormously rewarding and uplifting. Carry out your lift of truth around with you to refer to you when you feel blown off course, when you feel anxious, not at peace, stressed, to assure you and to remind you where the firm ground lies. Pin up copies of your list somewhere in your home and workplace, even if your car, perhaps especially in your car, so that you are constantly in touch with these foundation stones of life. Love changes everything. I don't think any of you would deny the power of love. This truth has been recognized and expressed in different ways throughout all the recorded ages. One beautiful example in the 12th century song by an Andrew Lloyd Webber, which asserts that love changes everything, love changes everything. This is a true statement. A small exercise to change the perspective. Write love changes everything on a beautiful piece of paper. Carry it around with you and look at it often. Call this to your mind whenever you are in a difficult situation or are having problems with someone, and see if it changes the way you look at the things. On the theme of the love, it is useful to remember the words of the 13th century physician Paracelsus, who is reported to have said, "Love is the highest level of medicine." This is an extraordinary statement that certainly deserves thinking about. It indicates the enormous power of love, the power to heal. I believe this is an important truth. In Bible, Christ is reported to have said, "Love one another." Buddha said, "Let a man overcome anger by love." Buddha also stated, "Hatred is never conquered by hatred at any time. Hatred is conquered by love." I'm sure each of you reading this will have your own favorite sayings about the power of love. It may be a line from a poem or a quote from Shakespeare, such as these lines from Sonnet 116. "Love is not love, which alter when its alternating finds, or bends with a remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever fixed mark that looks on a tempest and is never shaken." Of course, it is not easy to love everyone, but just start by trying to be like people a bit more. Look out for the things they are likable in other person. There is always something to find if you try. Plato words are helpful here. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle. We are often afraid of other people and assume that we will criticize us, but there is actually no reasons not to love, for we don't know what is taking place in someone else's mind. Why do we feel frightening of them? Why not decide them they are lovable? It all starts with us. After all, we are responsible for the attitudes with which we approach the outer world and each other. When we choose to love, it really does change everything. So when you are experiencing the difficulties with someone, make the decision to love them. Try to feel love for them. See them not as a giant enemy, but as a fallible, unflamed human being trying their best to cope, loaded down as well as we are all with their problems and worries. Deciding to love them will change the way you deal with them. The Little Book of Wisdom, published by Mr. Ryder, His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, "Practice love. To do so in all situations will take time, but you should not lose courage. If we wish happiness for mankind, love is the only way." Another way of applying this truth is to make a decision to try to understand. Trying to understand another will always change the way you relate to them. Try to put yourself in their shoes. When we truly understand, we develop compassion, and compassion produces love. In the Little Book of Wisdoms, the Dalai Lama also says, "Inner consequently come from the development of love and compassion." The theologian and the philosopher Albert Spiesters once stated, "Until he extends his circles of compassion to all living things, man will not find peace." This is an example of how an eternal truth can help you to find the solution or way throughout some difficult or stressful. It changes the perspectives. It expands your viewpoint, enabling you to look at the situation or a relationship for a new level, the level of eternal, unchanging truth. This level will also help you to find answers or clues for coping with life and controlling your stress. It removes you away from the level of stress. It is important to find your own eternal truth and a piece of recorded wisdoms and say themselves to yourself regularly in your mind and in your heart, referring to your written list to remind you. Find and affirm what has meaning for you, and then find ways to apply these truths in your life by letting them influence your behavior. Repeat these truths and the words of the wisdom to yourself many times a day, especially if you feel wounded up, stressed, or upset. Words have a greater power to influence your inner states. The power of the right word. Saying the right word, whether internally or out aloud, can have a profound effects on how you think and how you feel, strengthening your inwardly. The more you repeat positive words and phrases, the more they will have a positive influence on you. Repeating enchants the neural pathway in the brain for a particular thoughts. We must not forget that our thoughts are real. They produce electromagnetic and chemical signals across different networks of our brain cells. Also remember, it is only you have who can talk to you is inside your mind is you. We need these inner affirmations to help us through the many difficulties of today's world where there is so much of sadness, violence and ignorance. We need constant reminders of the positive, beautiful and truth. They are counterbalance. Just try this frequent for a few days and see how much better you feel, how relaxed you feel. Harnessing the power of replication. A small exercise to be practiced. Try repeating just one relevant word at a regular moment throughout the day, such as peace, calm, consequently, joy or love. Alternatively, find your own special word. I often put together. I frequently say to myself, peace and love. This may sound like a hippie greeting, but I found it very calming. It reminds me of what really important and in partially helps me if I am dealing with someone who is making me irritating or angry. One helpful phrase I often use to myself is rise about it. My very wise father used to say that to me when I was young and would get into a state about someone or something that upset me. It's a great statement, a word of many levels. It can remind not to be pretty or small-minded. It reminds me that I can conquer my negative emotions, that I am not a victim and that I have a choice about how to behave. It reminds me to act from my bigger self, not my little self. It feels comforting. I fill my mind with words and mentally taking off to the higher grounds. You might like to use my phrase, or you may find others that help you, such as do unto others as you would they do unto you. Silence is golden. Try everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. Judge not, lest you yourself to be judged. Life is meaningful when your hearts are full of love. Use whatever feels appropriate for you. Use the ancient wisdoms as they were intended to be used as a kind of life support system or a blueprint from which everything ripples out. They change your inner state, and as a result, you have a different influence on those around you. This is how truth ripples out into the world, the planet and the universe. You may not always be able to rise to the level of truth, but just knowing there is another way to see things, another way to behave. Calm help you control your stress level. Many research students have shown their strong spiritual, religious or philosophical belief systems is an important factor in maintaining good mental, physical health and buffers one against stress, especially the stress of changes or life. Writing down meaningful statements make them feel more real. It makes them physically manifest. Also, when you look at them, you imprint them in your mind. You remind yourself of their reality and truth. As I said above, they act as a counterbalance to the many dark and troubling images regularly presented to your mind through the media. I think we have to work at providing positive and uplifting thoughts and images for yourself to nourish and soothe your minds. Carry them around with you in your pockets or bag and take them out to read from time to time, or simply touch the paper on which they have written and imagine the wise words being absorbed by your fingers, traveling up with your arms into your heart and mind. Feel reassured just knowing what they tell to you. Let them strengthen you. If you were not brought up in any belief system or cannot connect with any customs or traditions, look at the positive sides of this. It leaves you free from your mind, your belief, your own structure to mix different cultures' thoughts or different spiritual beliefs in a way that makes sense to you. You are not constrained by just one belief system that dictates it is the right one. I personally believe that all truths come from same source. I think all the religions in the world are talking about the same things in different way. There are many paths to the top of the mountain, but there is only one mountain top. So truth is truth in every language and in every different way it may be expressed. There are so many books around nowadays containing gems and wisdoms and spiritual guidance from numerous sources. If you need inspiration, visit your local bookstores and browse among the treasures and riches that have been put into the prints. Some are little pocket books available at the low cost, one or two of which you might find supportive to carry around with you. They will transport you to that other dimension we have been considering when you feel blocked down, overwhelmed, disillusioned or stressed. Your personal truth. Equally important, of course, are you on own personal truth? Whatever is valuable to you and sustain you in a personal way must not be neglected or lost along the way in the rush of daily living. It is important to honor consciously whatever you have to recognize as a fundamental truth in your own experience of life, or simply whatever is significant in your own way of life. It could be the social customs or manners you were taught as a child, the rules or guiding principles that were operating in your family, or possibly a partial member of your family or a teacher at a school who inspired you with an inner desire to imitate the standards or achievements. As children, we so often recognize the truth which is transcend everyday concerns. As adults, we must not lose the connections. We must remember what we have always known. I think our truth needs to be polished up and put on displays in our lives. Like valuable possessions in a wealthy household, we must be proud of displaying our spiritual wealth. It is, after all, our valuable legacy from the past. In addition, remembering things which is comforted or uplifted you when you are young, like special stories or poems or practical toys that have a significant meanings for you, perhaps because they are symbolize some positive qualities like kindness, playfulness or joy and happiness. Do not neglect them. Hold on to you whatever is valuable to you. These are some personal comforts which can encourage and reassure us when the going gets rough and must be kept in a place in your inner world. Alongside the innovative and a new in order that the right balance is maintained. It is important to keep the continuum, the connection to your over personal and external roots. As I have indicated above, I believe that many of the answers to today's stress inducing problems and to the questions about how to structure our life are to be found in the ancient wise teaching of all of the different cultures. They can form a short bottom of line and which is helpful for you to maintain a wisdom and a truth life. Thank you.